The galaxy learned fear not from a scream, not from war, but from silence. 12,000 warships entered Earth's space. None of them ever left. No wreckage. No signal. No survivors. Just absence, so complete it felt deliberate. And the most terrifying truth was this: whatever happened down there chose not to be seen. The Draconian Fleet crossed the edge of the Sol system in perfect formation. Their ships were massive, angular beasts of black alloy, each one capable of turning a city into ash. They had crushed empires older than humanity's written history. They had ended civilizations that once believed themselves eternal. To the Draconians, Earth was not a challenge. It was a formality. Supreme Warlord Kael'vor watched the blue planet rotate beneath his command ship. His kind had studied the humans for decades. A young species. Divided. Loud. Creative. But careless. They fought each other over lines on maps. They polluted their own world while dreaming of the stars. They were clever animals. Nothing more. Begin planetary intimidation, Kael'vor ordered. Thousands of Draconian ships powered their weapons at once. The energy surge alone should have been visible across the system. On Earth, humans noticed strange lights in the sky. Satellites malfunctioned. Communication grids flickered. Panic spread through governments that did not yet understand what they were facing. Human leaders gathered in underground rooms. Scientists argued. Generals demanded permission to strike. Old weapons were readied, nuclear missiles designed for wars between humans, not gods from the dark. Every calculation ended the same way. Humanity could not win. But humans did not surrender. They listened. Deep beneath Earth's crust, inside facilities never listed on any map, something old was waking up. Not a creature, not a weapon, but an idea. A last answer. One built not on strength, but on understanding. As Draconian ships descended toward low orbit, their sensors began to behave strangely. Readings contradicted each other. Gravity fluctuated by fractions that should not exist. Time stamps drifted out of sync. Engineers blamed calibration errors. They corrected them. The errors returned. Humans are attempting interference, an officer reported. Kael'vor was unimpressed. They lack the technology. Yet the unease spread. The first Draconian ship vanished near Earth's moon. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Simply gone. Its signal cut mid-transmission, like a thought interrupted. Then another vanished. Then 5 more. The fleet halted its advance. Draconian doctrine demanded overwhelming response. Thousands of ships redirected fire toward Earth's surface. Energy lances struck the atmosphere, and bent. Not deflected. Bent, as if space itself had decided the beams were unwelcome. That was when the humans spoke. Not through a broadcast. Not through radio waves. The message arrived inside Draconian systems directly, written into their command interfaces as if it had always been there. We hear you. Draconian crews froze. Systems officers tore at consoles, trying to trace the signal. There was no source. No origin point. The message existed everywhere and nowhere at once. Kael'vor felt something he had not felt in centuries. Uncertainty. Who dares? He began. The next message appeared. You came loud. You came arrogant. You came blind. Around Earth, space folded. Not violently. Gently. Like a door closing. Humanity had done what no species had ever attempted. They had not built a weapon to fight the Draconians. They had built a question and forced the universe to answer it. A field that did not destroy matter, but removed it from relevance. Ships caught within it were not torn apart. They were misplaced. Slid into a dimension where distance meant nothing and direction did not exist. A place where armies could march forever and never arrive. Draconian ships began to disappear faster now. Hundreds per minute. Crews screamed as walls stretched and corridors looped back on themselves. Some ships tried to flee. Their engines activated. They went nowhere. Kael'vor watched his fleet dissolve into nothing. This is impossible, he whispered. The The final message appeared on his command screen, simple and calm. This is mercy. Leave. Kael'vor ordered a retreat with what remained of his forces. Less than 100 ships responded. As they fled the system, the field collapsed behind them, sealing the wound in space as if it had never existed. Earth returned to silence. On the surface, humans collapsed in relief and terror. The plan had worked, but barely. Scientists wept. Engineers stared at data they did not fully understand. Humanity had survived not by being stronger, but by daring to think differently. By weaponizing curiosity itself. Far beyond Earth, the Draconian survivors carried a story no one wanted to hear. An empire built on fear had met a species that refused to fight on expected terms. The galaxy listened politely. Then it ignored the warning. Records were sealed. Trade routes reopened. Earth was labeled an anomaly, quarantined and forgotten. Empires moved on. Wars continued. The silence around Earth deepened. But silence is not emptiness. On Earth, humanity changed. Not loudly. Not proudly. Quietly. They watched the stars more carefully. They asked harder questions. They prepared, not for conquest, but for understanding. And somewhere, in places that did not exist until humans made them, something waited. Because the next time the galaxy came to Earth, it would not come as conquerors. It would come as prey. For 20 standard cycles after the Draconian retreat, the galaxy convinced itself that nothing had happened. Official records described the event as a localized spatial anomaly. Scholars argued that the Draconian Fleet had triggered an unstable physics reaction with experimental weapons. Politicians labeled Earth a statistical outlier, dangerous, but irrelevant. Trade lanes reopened. Borders shifted. Life continued. That was the galaxy's greatest mistake. Because while the galaxy forgot, humanity remembered everything. On Earth, no monuments were built. No victory parades were held. There were no speeches declaring dominance. Instead, there were sealed rooms, sleepless nights, and minds pushed to breaking points. The device that had saved them, the quiet field, was not understood, not fully. Humans only knew what it did, not why it worked. And that terrified them. Dr. Lena Moreau stood inside Facility Echo, buried beneath a mountain that no longer appeared on satellite images. She stared at a hologram of warped space, its edges folding in ways her brain resisted accepting. It shouldn't hold, she said quietly. Every model says it should collapse. But it doesn't, replied Arun Patel, arms crossed, eyes hollow from lack of sleep. That's the problem. We didn't invent this. We discovered how to knock on it. They all knew the truth they never spoke aloud. Humanity had not created a weapon. They had found a rule the universe preferred to obey. The quiet field responded not to power, but to observation. To intent. To structured curiosity. It behaved less like technology and more like agreement. As if reality itself had been waiting for someone reckless enough to ask the wrong questions the right way. And humans were very good at that. While Earth worked in silence, the galaxy grew restless. Smugglers were the first to test the quarantine. They always were. A Virexian courier ship slipped past the old Draconian warning beacons, drawn by rumors of untouched ruins and lost war tech. Captain Sorin expected ghosts. What he found was nothing. Earth floated there, unchanged. Peaceful. Alive. His crew laughed. "See," one of them said. "Just another myth." They never sent another message. Their ship vanished exactly 13 seconds after crossing the lunar orbit. No explosion. No signal spike. No trace. Just a gap where something used to be. Within weeks, other ships followed. Pirates. Scouts. Curious scientists. All disappeared in the same clean, impossible way. Still, no one panicked. The galaxy had seen disappearances before. Space was dangerous. Accidents happened. Then the bodies started returning. A research station on the edge of neutral space detected an object drifting toward it at sublight speed. Salvage crews brought it inside. It was a ship, or what remained of one, folded inward, like it had been pressed through a shape too small for it to fit. Inside, they found the crew. Alive. They were fused into the walls. Not crushed. Integrated. Their nervous systems still active, eyes moving slowly, mouths opening in silent screams. Sensors showed they were experiencing time at a fraction of normal speed, aware, conscious, unable to die. One of them managed to speak before the station's doctors shut everything down. It wasn't anger, the survivor whispered. It was curiosity. Panic spread. Emergency councils were called. Militaries mobilized. Sensors focused on Earth again. For the first time in decades, serious attention returned to the quiet blue planet. And humans noticed. In orbit above Earth, automated arrays detected the shift in observation. More eyes. More probes. More listening. Humanity understood something fundamental then. They were no longer hidden. At a global summit held in a city that had once been divided by war, representatives from every surviving nation met in one room. No flags. No cameras. Just people. "We cannot pretend anymore," said Secretary Amina Rahman. "They will come back. Stronger. Smarter." "And if we fire first next time?" a general asked. Dr. Moreau shook her head. "They don't understand force the way we do. If we attack, they adapt. If we threaten, they escalate." "So what do we do?" someone demanded. Arun answered softly. "We change the game again." Humanity's greatest strength had never been weapons. It had been collaboration under pressure. When faced with extinction, they stopped competing and started thinking together. The quiet field was reconfigured, not expanded, not weaponized, but refined. Humans learned how to shape where it existed, when it activated, and most importantly, how it communicated. Because it could communicate. Not with language. With experience. The next alien fleet arrived cautiously. A coalition force of 6 species. Smaller than the Draconian Armada, but smarter. Their ships held position beyond lunar orbit. They did not fire. They sent a message. "We come to understand." Earth responded immediately. Good. The coalition advanced one ship. The quiet field touched it, not fully, not violently. The ship's crew experienced something impossible. A moment outside time. A vision of Earth's history compressed into seconds. Wars. Mistakes. Regret. Curiosity. A species constantly failing, learning, and trying again. They felt what it meant to be human. The ship retreated at full speed. The coalition left the system within minutes. The message they carried back was never made public, but its effect was immediate. Borders hardened. Earth was no longer ignored. It was feared. But fear alone does not stop ambition. In the dark between empires, something else was moving. Not a fleet. Not a nation. A belief. That if humanity could bend reality once, they could be forced to do it again. And this time, the galaxy would not come knocking. It would come prepared to break the door. The galaxy's fear of Earth did not grow loud. It grew careful. No armadas formed. No declarations were made. Instead, data vanished. Research budgets shifted. Certain sciences were quietly banned in dozens of star systems. Curiosity itself became regulated. Because too many minds were reaching the same conclusion. Whatever humans had done, it could be copied. Or stolen. In the fractured territories beyond major empires, a coalition of interests began to form. Not governments, but thinkers, war profiteers, exiled scientists, and species who had always lived in the cracks of galactic law. They called themselves the Ascendant Accord, and they believed the universe rewarded those who dared to take what others feared. Earth was their prize. Their plan was simple. They would not invade. They would not announce themselves. They would not test humanity's defenses. They would remove the humans from the equation. The Accord's first move was quiet infiltration. Sleeper probes, smaller than dust, were scattered through the Sol system. They hid in solar winds, in asteroid shadows, inside the electromagnetic noise of human communications. Humanity detected some, missed others. That was enough. In facility echo, alarms whispered instead of screamed. Dr. Moreau stared at a pattern emerging on the display, tiny, repeating distortions in the quiet field's background readings. "They're mapping it," she said. Arun didn't ask who. He already knew. "How long do we have before they understand enough to hurt themselves?" She hesitated. Or us. Humanity had always assumed the quiet field was a shield. They were wrong. It was a conversation. The field reacted to attention. The more it was observed, the more it changed. It disliked being measured. It resisted prediction. And now, too many alien minds were poking at it with instruments designed for domination, not understanding. The field was becoming unstable. That was when humanity made its boldest choice yet. They opened the door. Across the galaxy, a signal appeared, not broadcast, not traceable, but undeniably present. It reached research labs, pirate stations, royal observatories, and forgotten outposts all at once. It contained no coordinates. Only a question. Why do you fear US? The reaction was chaos. Some species erased the message instantly. Others obsessed over it. A few answered. Humanity listened. For the first time in galactic history, Earth did not wait for visitors. It invited them, but not physically. Through the quiet field, humanity learned how to let others touch it without crossing into danger. Alien minds were allowed to observe fragments of human experience. Art. Failure. Humor. Sacrifice. The strange human habit of asking questions even when the answers hurt. Not everyone reacted the same. Some recoiled in disgust. Some felt awe. Some felt anger. And some felt envy so deep it curdled into hatred. The Ascendant Accord accelerated its plans. If they could not control the quiet field, they would collapse it. Their scientists theorized that the field existed at the boundary between possibility and observation. Too much forced measurement, applied at the right frequencies, could tear it apart, violently. And Earth would be at the center of the tear. The attack did not look like an attack. Across the Sol system, ancient laws of physics began to misbehave. Orbits drifted by centimeters. Atomic clocks disagreed with themselves. Human instruments screamed contradictions. The quiet field shuddered. Dr. Moreau felt it before she saw it. They are hurting it. Arun swallowed. Can we shut it down? She shook her head. Not without shutting down everything it's touching. Including us. Humanity faced extinction again, but this time, not from an enemy's strength. From their own discovery. As panic spread through Earth's command networks, a new signal appeared. This one was not human. It carried the distinct markers of the quiet field itself. It was not words. It was intent. The field was not passive. It had been shaped by humanity's curiosity, patience, and restraint. And now it responded in kind. The Accord's main research hub, hidden inside a rogue planetoid, experienced something unprecedented. Every experiment succeeded at once. Every variable resolved perfectly. For exactly 3 seconds. Then the quiet field folded inward, only there. The planetoid did not explode. It inverted. Space turned inside out. The station ceased to exist in any dimension that could be described. Every Accord scientist vanished with it. Across the galaxy, sensors recorded the event. A localized absence so precise it could only have been intentional. Earth sent one final message. We will not be owned. We will not be broken. Ask, or leave. Silence followed. Then something unexpected happened. Requests. Delegations. Thinkers. Entire species asked not for weapons, not for power, but for understanding. They wanted to know how humanity had survived itself long enough to reach the stars. Humanity did not give them the quiet field. They gave them something far more dangerous. Perspective. And in the deep void beyond known space, something ancient stirred, not amused this time, but alert. Because the galaxy had finally noticed. And so had it. The question was no longer whether humanity would survive. The question was what the universe would become now that humans had taught it how to listen. The galaxy changed its language after Earth. Old words like weapon, invasion, and conquest began to feel outdated. Not useless, just dangerous. Because every time a species thought it understood humanity, the universe itself seemed to lean in and say, "No. You missed the point." For the first time in recorded history, the Galactic Concord issued a unified advisory. Do not provoke Sol. Do not study Sol without consent. Do not attempt replication. It was the closest thing the galaxy had ever produced to an admission of fear. But fear never stops everyone. Far beyond the mapped spiral arms, in regions where stars were sparse and laws thin, something older than empires watched the shift with growing intensity. It had observed countless civilizations rise and fall. It had fed on ambition, on overreach, on the moment a species believed it had finally understood the universe. Humanity worried it. Not because humans were powerful, but because they were careful. The quiet field had not grown since the Accord's destruction. Humanity resisted every temptation to expand it, weaponize it, or prove dominance. Instead, they turned inward. They studied restraint as seriously as they once studied war. And that restraint sent a message far louder than any armada. Inside Facility Echo, Dr. Lena Moreau aged quickly. Not physically, but mentally. Every day brought questions she could not answer, signals she could not classify, patterns that behaved like curiosity observing curiosity. It's not just reacting anymore, she told the council. It's anticipating. Arun frowned. That implies intent. Yes, Lena said. And learning. That was when the impossible happened. Something answered humanity back. Not through the quiet field, but through the stars. A deep space observatory detected a distortion light years beyond Sol. Not a ship. Not a rift. A shadow, a region where background radiation bent inward, like space was holding its breath. Then a signal emerged. Ancient. Structured. Patient. It carried no threat. Only a statement. You are not the first to listen. You are the first to wait. The message spread across human networks in seconds. Panic followed, then silence. Humanity had always known, deep down, that they were not the apex. But this was different. This was recognition. Lena felt her hands shake. It was already there. Whatever the Draconians encountered, it wasn't humanity's weapon. It was something else. Something we aligned with. Humanity had not created the quiet field. They had tuned themselves to something older. The ancient presence did not approach Earth. It did not cross boundaries. It observed from afar, respecting the same rules humanity had learned to value. That terrified the galaxy more than any invasion ever could. Because now the equation was clear. Earth was not protected by a monster. Earth was protected by a relationship. Some species panicked. Fleets mobilized preemptively, convinced annihilation was inevitable. Others knelt, sending cultural archives, apologies, desperate offers of alliance. Humanity responded to none of it immediately. They debated. They argued. They disagreed loudly and passionately, as they always had. And then they chose. Humanity would not rule the galaxy. They would not hide from it either. They would become something far more disruptive. A mediator. Through controlled use of the quiet field, humanity facilitated limited contact between willing species and the ancient presence. Not direct communication, but shared experience. A sense of scale. A reminder of how small every civilization truly was. Wars stalled. Not because humanity threatened intervention, but because after touching that perspective, fighting felt embarrassing. But not everyone accepted it. A militarized empire at the galactic core, long dominant through force, rejected humanity's role outright. They viewed Earth as a destabilizing anomaly, one that had to be removed before it rewrote the balance of power forever. Their fleets did not head for Sol. They targeted the ancient presence instead. The attack was catastrophic. Energy weapons designed to crack stars tore through empty space and vanished. Not absorbed. Not reflected. Simply ignored. The presence did not retaliate. It withdrew. And the moment it did, the galaxy felt the loss. The quiet field shuddered across all its anchor points. Humanity screamed warnings. It was too late. The ancient presence had stepped back, removing its stabilizing influence. Reality began to fray. Systems that had never been near Earth experienced spatial anomalies. Trade routes twisted. Planets drifted off predictable orbits. The galaxy had wounded something it did not understand. And now it would bleed. Humanity acted without asking permission. They expanded the quiet field, not outward, but inward. Instead of shielding Earth, they used it to bind. To stitch reality together using observation, patience, and shared effort. It nearly killed them. Millions of humans volunteered to anchor the process. Scientists, artists, philosophers, engineers, minds synchronized in purpose. Humanity discovered that the field strengthened when it was shaped by diversity, disagreement, and empathy. The universe stabilized. Barely. The ancient presence returned, not closer, not louder, but warmer. Approval, perhaps. Or relief. Its final message reached only Earth. You will make mistakes. So did we. Stay curious. Stay kind. Do not rush. The militant empire collapsed within a generation, not destroyed, but rendered irrelevant. No one trusted force alone anymore. The galaxy entered a new age. Not ruled by humans, but guided by the lesson they embodied. Power without understanding is noise. Curiosity with restraint is harmony. And somewhere beyond stars and dimensions, something very old watched humanity with something dangerously close to hope. Because for the first time in eons, the universe felt less alone. The galaxy never announced the beginning of the quiet age. There were no ceremonies, no declarations, no single moment history could point to and say, this is when everything changed. It simply slowed. Borders stopped moving. Fleets stopped posturing. The endless hum of conflict that had defined intelligent life for millions of years faded into something softer, more uncertain. Not peace. Peace was too fragile a word, but restraint. And at the center of it all was a small blue planet that refused to rule. Earth did not become the capital of the galaxy. Humans never demanded tribute or obedience. They did something far stranger. They listened. The quiet field still existed, but it was no longer a shield or a warning. It became a bridge, not across space, but across understanding. Only those who approached with intent to learn were allowed to feel it. Those who came seeking power found nothing at all. That rule was absolute. Dr. Lena Moreau did not live to see the full results of her life's work. She passed quietly, surrounded by students who carried her questions forward instead of her answers. Humanity had learned that answers ended conversations. Questions kept them alive. Arun Patel watched the stars from a balcony above the Pacific Ocean, older now, slower, but smiling. He remembered the fear, the panic, the impossible nights when extinction felt inevitable. Humanity had survived not by winning, but by refusing to become what the galaxy expected. That, more than any technology, had changed everything. The ancient presence remained distant. It never entered soul space. It never spoke unless spoken to. Humanity understood why now. It was not a guardian. It was not a god. It was a witness. It had seen civilizations burn themselves out chasing dominance. It had learned patience the hard way. And when humanity had chosen restraint over conquest, curiosity over certainty, the universe had leaned closer. Not to protect them, but to walk beside them. Children on Earth grew up knowing the stars were full of life, but also full of consequence. They learned that strength without humility collapsed inward. That listening could reshape reality more than force ever could. Some humans left Earth. They joined other species. Lived entire lives among alien cultures. Not as rulers. Not as saviors. As neighbors. The galaxy never fully trusted humanity. And humanity never asked it to. That mutual caution kept everyone honest. Centuries later, long after the Draconian Empire was dust and the Ascendant accord a warning taught in classrooms, a new civilization emerged on the edge of known space. Young, ambitious, loud. They built weapons first, asked questions later. They saw Earth. They saw silence. And they prepared to break it. Humanity noticed them immediately. There was no panic. No emergency summit. Just a single signal sent, not as a warning, not as a threat. As an invitation. The same question that had once echoed across the galaxy appeared in the minds of this new species. Why do you fear US? This time, the answer came quickly. We don't. We fear what we might become. Humanity smiled. Because that answer meant the universe had learned something too. And somewhere far beyond stars and time, the ancient presence shifted, content. Not because humanity was perfect, but because they were still asking, still listening, still choosing curiosity over conquest. The quiet age would not last forever. Humanity knew that. Nothing did. One day, another threat would rise. Another mistake would be made. Another silence would fall. But when that day came, humanity would face it the same way they always had. Together. With questions. And with the courage to listen when the universe answered. And the stars, once cold and indifferent, felt just a little less empty.